Hello and welcome to Profiles on Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and I continue to have the annoying camera issues that make my microphone disappear. We'll figure that out eventually, but I am very excited to be back today with Angie Richards, VP of Employee Benefits at Poms Associates. Angie, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for having me today, Tony.
Awesome, my pleasure. And we are recording on May 2nd, and you are based in Southern California in the LA area. So normally I look at the calendar, I look at the area, and I try to kind of guess what the weather's like this time of year. Southern California, basically always beautiful, right? So sunny and beautiful.
Yes, that's exactly why we pay the high prices, right? Yeah, I know, absolutely. We're blessed to have some great weather. Can't complain.
And you're from the area originally.
Yeah, actually born and raised here. I was born and raised in greater Los Angeles area. My entire career have been out here as well. So, but you know, and about you, how's the weather out there?
Beautiful. It's getting hot. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. 2 weeks ago, it was just beautiful. The last week, we're starting to get hot. So I'm at the point where I go roller skating every day. And I'm at the point where going after work is way too hot. So I need to like start going in the morning. But we live here for a reason. I'll take this over snow any day of the week after 10 years, like 14 years spent in the Midwest. So Angie, we always give the chance for the guest to kind of tell their story. And then today is one of my favorite kind of episodes. A kind of a career episode, right? So you've had a great career in the employee benefits side of our industry, and you have more than anything a very unique approach to employee benefits. So we'd love to hear your story.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, yes, I've been in employee benefits in the healthcare industry for, I say 20 many years because it's been too many. And I love it. I stopped counting. When you're having a good time, time doesn't matter. But yes, I started off many years ago on the insurance carrier side, and then had a great opportunity to cross over into the broker side early into my career. And I said, well, what exactly does a broker do? Right. And then quickly learned, that we put together just about everything. We really have the ability and, the great honor of serving our clients, being really an extension of their organization. So, when people say, well, what do you do? Well, I really don't look at it as I'm working for Poms and Associates. I look at it as I'm working for my clients. I'm working on their behalf. And so internally, it's kind of like having a chief of insurance officer, sitting at your right hand at the board meetings, whether we're talking about, what the budget is and what they want to implement, what their culture is. Because when you talk to companies and you think about it, right, their number one cost is what? Payroll, their employees, right? And then you find out, well, what's their second cost? Health insurance, if not the third. Right. And so when you look at that, you have to really ask yourself, okay, am I running, are we running a health insurance company or are we running a business? Right. And do we have the time and the staff to allocate to ensure that our costs are being kept, in the budget? Are they, and what is it, from spending this much money, you want to have a vested interest as a company, what are my employees getting out of it? Are they staying healthier? Are they staying present in their job because, they've got good coverage, they have good service. So there's just so many components. It's very complex for a company. So that gives me the ability to come in and really partner with them, find out what it is that their needs and their wants are, and to be able to deliver that and meet that client where they're at. So it's very customized. It's a very boutique type of service that we provide for them. And I've really enjoyed being able to partner with clients over many years And the longer I'm with them, the better I get to know them. I often sit at their right hand when they have, a board meeting, an all staff meeting, because they know that I take part in that, whether I'm, helping them with their culture and engagement, because again, then that delivers right into their mental health, which we know is one of the largest costs right now, and into their healthcare. So kind of to sum up my approach, it's a little bit unique and different, because I'm looking at both the cost approach as well as the employee health and their culture.
Okay. So I started, I'm originally from Costa Rica. Costa Rica has socialized healthcare, which I
Very
grew up,
familiar.
and I come from a family of doctors. And I grew up thinking that it was kind of crappy. And then I came to the States. And I am very lucky that I am very, very healthy. I very rarely need to interface with the US healthcare system. But my ex-wife spent quite a bit of time and money dealing with doctors. So I got to see that closely about 15 years ago, when I had just started working and we had just gotten married. And my longtime girlfriend nowadays has a permanent disability, and over her life has dealt a lot with the healthcare system. So I've gotten to now see a lot of the healthcare system here in the States, which has convinced me that the Costa Rican system is fantastic, especially for a middle income country. And one of the things that I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it really feels like even those of us lucky enough to have corporately provide health insurance, which is no longer me. I'm now self-employed, but for a long time I worked for insurance companies. So like some of the best benefits out there. Even for us, health coverage got worse and worse and worse. Right, it doesn't seem to get better. And my understanding is also it's not that my employer is becoming cheaper and cheaper. It's that the damn thing has gotten ever more expensive, right? Significantly beating inflation year after year after year after year, and it does not appear that our political leadership is hurrying to fix this mess.
No end in sight.
Yeah, so that's for the perspective to which I'm coming to this conversation. Okay. So now I've never sold benefits. But from the little that I've seen, it appears to me that they largely get sold on price. Is that what is the traditional approach that employee benefit brokers take?
Well, a traditional approach that most, benefits brokers are taking is they're going to shop it out. They're going to provide that to the client. And oftentimes you don't hear from them again until the renewal time. But, to your point, then that's all right? You only know that the health insurance keeps going up. No one's really spent the time to educate you on what you have. So you mentioned the national healthcare system, and actually I'm very familiar with it. I had a very large client that I not only handled their national benefits, but I was also handling all of their international benefits. And so you say, okay, well, why would you be doing anything internationally if everybody's got national healthcare, right? You look at places in Europe, it was in Mexico, Canada, many other countries. And the reason being is that because the coverage, while you might have that out of the country, you have that socialized medicine, you also have limitations, right? You don't have access to some of the private healthcare, you don't have access to a lot of the preventative care and things of that nature. And you're also waiting lengthy periods of time, right, to get care. So here in the United States, yes, our healthcare is astronomical. In fact, you would be surprised to hear this because you probably haven't heard of anything else that's gotten this expensive. But from 2013 to 2023, the average price of family health insurance has gone up 100%. It had gone So it went from 16,000 to 24,000. So I say 100% because it's, well, 50% actually, but you know what I'm saying? It's like when you look at the evolving, it's gone up. What else has gone up that much? So actually 50%. Yeah, nothing else, right? When you think
Insurance in Florida, that's about it.
right, exactly. And so you look at it and go, wow, where else, where's this money going? Well, the difference is that here, if you have a great plan, if your employer is giving you the tools and telling you how to utilize your plan, there are so many things that you can do with the preventative care, being able to access that, understanding that you have access to new technology. There are a lot of preventative services as well that are provided to capture those things that you don't know in another place where if you didn't have it, for example, if you're not going for those annual checkups, that by the time you do catch it, right, then I'm at stage 3, stage 4, we've seen that happen. Look at what happened during COVID, right? So many people delayed care. They weren't going in for any of those preventative services. And now we're paying the price because so many people actually had many indications, but they weren't able to capture those. And so now we've got claims that are through the roof because of COVID, because there was a delay in care and people were not getting those preventative visits to be able to detect a lot of the things that they had going on underlying. So that's just one component. With regard to, you say it's getting, is it getting worse? Yes. Also due to what we've seen go on in healthcare reform, we have a shortage of doctors here in the United States. So you have a lot of doctors that retired during, ACA, Obamacare, whatever anybody wants to label it as. And so trying to get in to see a doctor can be extremely difficult. And that's why we see, now we've got our, nursing staff. We see a lot more people that are being seen by patients, nurse practitioners and things of that nature, right? Versus seeing the actual doctors often. So in my approach in talking to employers, it is important that we educate employees, because if you as an employer are paying $24,000 for family coverage, when you think about that on average, that's a huge investment. And if your employees don't understand how to drive that vehicle, then what is your ROI on that? So that's where I come in. It's my job to go out there and educate employees, tell them how to advocate for themselves, how to advocate for their children. How do we educate parents so that they educate their adult children on how to utilize the plan? Because in the United States, your dependents are covered until age 26, right? So that's what I'm looking at when I talk to groups, is I want to understand their culture. I want to understand their environment. Am I dealing with baby boomers, millennials, Gen X, Gen Z, a combination of that, so that I can bring strategies and solutions to educate them and empower them so that when they go ahead.
That is one thing. So we had a 5-minute pre-conversation a couple of days ago, because of a scheduling snap on my part. Sorry, Brett. A couple stories that were super interesting just in those 5 minutes. One of the things that I had no idea within benefits is this whole idea of who is in your group and how to reach them, because they can be radically different, right? Never thought of that. Like having not done benefits ever, I always kind of assumed that it was very cookie cutter. What's the size of your group? What are the losses?
Right.
And we'll go find you the best price we can. But never occurred to me. Well, yeah, if you have a preponderance of 62-year-olds, then the way that the kind of diseases that they're dealing with, the way that they'll connect with their coverage, that they utilize their coverage, is going to be different than a bunch of 22-year-olds in every way, not just the health risks that they suffer, but even the way they sign up for the coverage. Right. So you shared the story. So I'd love to have you share it again, of going to Iowa for a client.
Yes, so I was in Iowa for a very large wind turbine manufacturer. And I was dealing with, we talk about demographics and the different. So I had an older sector, and then I had, middle-aged engineers, and then some very younger, younger employees as well. And so I really had to gear my approach to them. And in doing so, oftentimes what I like to do, and I shared in that story, is that, I like to be boots on the ground. I want to go to do those enrollment meetings so I get to know who's my audience. How am I going to gear this throughout the entire year to make sure that they're getting the best bang for their dollar? And in this situation, this was a green company, so we had no access to forms. Everything had to be done on the computer. And I had a lot of people there in a manufacturing atmosphere as well that said, well, I've never done anything like this on a computer. So I had to literally get them on and educate them on how they were going to enroll in their benefits. And so, first component is educating them. What am I actually getting? How am I going to use it? And now, how am I going to get it? How am I going to actually get the deliverables? And so I would sit down with them and literally show them how to utilize the program so that they were empowered to do it, because I knew that if I could get them to enroll themselves and not me do it for them, so that the way of the future, they would be able to go online to take a look at what their benefits are online with that insurance company. And I'm not having to, hear them say, this coverage is terrible. I could educate them and empower them. And that's just a really, big thing for me, is I want employees to know how to utilize what they have so that they don't feel like my coverage sucks, or, what, I don't have this, or this, my plan doesn't cover it. No, let's show them where they can get it. Absolutely.
How how about a situation where uh firms in low margin businesses. So we have a lot of employees and cannot afford to spend that much on their insurance. But how can you help us make it work?
Yeah, that's a great challenge. And I have to overcome that quite often. So I have groups that are in manufacturing, and especially here in the state of California locally, manufacturing is very difficult because the margins are so slim between, the cost of employment and goods and all of that. So what I do is I work with the employer to find out approximately what the budget is per employee, per family, and see. I'm going to take a look at what type of doctors they need to go to, what type of services they need. If I'm looking at average wages for an employee, I need to also understand that that employee is not going to probably be able to afford, for example, if I am hospitalized, I'm not going to be able to afford a PPO perhaps with a 20% coinsurance and $5,000 out of pocket, because I don't have that money set aside. Let's be honest. Americans are not great savers. It's not what we do. We are great consumers, but we're not great savers. So what I've done, for example, I give, there's a client of mine, manufacturing group I've had for about 6 years, and their margins were very thin. So I partnered with them and I said, okay, we all have an agreement. This is what our budget is. But we also understand that a lot of our employees are bilingual. They don't understand insurance very well, do they? They're used to going, they need to be, given medical groups or whatever it might be. So I designed a program that essentially had a limited number of medical groups. So I made the narrow network, is what we call it here, so they would only go to certain medical groups. I made it so that the health plan, as far as first dollar benefits for doctor's office visits, prescription drugs, were all affordable. However, if the employee does get hospitalized, there is a higher cost to that deductible. However, I created a program, which is an HRA on the side, where the employer can reimburse and pay part of that deductible on behalf of the employee if they should be hospitalized, as well as for their dependents. Because as we know, for employees, they come to work, and in order for them to be present, they're not only carrying their own problems, but as well for their family members. And in any account, I give that example. It was a little bit challenging because most of the people are bilingual. So what I did is I have boots on the ground, either myself or an associate is there every quarter, so that if employees have questions on their plans, they have claims, they've been hospitalized, they bring those there. We're able to help them to facilitate that, take that burden off of them. And I can tell you in 5 years, I was able to keep their rates sustained. You don't see that. I give you that example where family cost has gone up 50%. We were able to sustain their cost for 5 years. So it's very unheard of.
Incredible.
Right. And like I said, I told them it's not going to be pretty. It may be a little messy, but you know what? I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to do all the heavy lifting, and we're going to be right there by your side so that you're not, we didn't want HR staff going every 2 seconds, I have a problem with my plan. No, let us educate them and let us empower them. And it's worked very, very well. We're going on our 6th year with this program.
What about the opposites? The opposite side of that coin, the rich companies, so the Googles of the world. So if we've
Yes.
got high margins and a low
Yes.
number of employees compared to that, how can you help us get the right program that will help retain that what is likely very, 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 very highly sought employees?
Right. So that's a great example. And I have, video gaming, tech companies, robotics, and that's, they're coming in, they've got a lot of investment that's being made into the organization, and they're trying to attract and retain and look like a Google, like a Netflix, and so forth. So there is a variety of options. Number one, I'm taking a look at benchmarking what is being done. Not only, you say technology, and that's a very broad spectrum. Okay, so I like to narrow it down. I give you the example of a client that I have. It's actually an internationally owned company, but they do video games. So video game programmers, things of that nature. And in that situation, I'm not just looking at tech, but I'm looking at gaming. What are their competitors doing? What are they, how are you getting them? So we're looking at those types of things, trying to see what type of benefit plans that they offer, what type of, perks, because it goes above and beyond when I talk about culture and engagement. These people are also usually getting things like gym memberships, right? All types of allowances, whether it's for, education. If they're getting things like if they do have a high deductible plan, they're getting money that's invested there, because some of these, Gen Zs, they're really interested in the stock, right? They've been raised in Bitcoin and all of these different new protocols. So we're trying to make sure we offer a program that's going to be best suited for them, that's going to help to attract and retain that type of talent. But it's going to go above and beyond just your benefit package. And you're really wanting to make sure that you create a culture, because a lot of this is going to be about the culture of the organization. So whether it's, getting the fit meals that are delivered to, your staff. There's a variety. Getting really involved with a wellness program and engagement.
All right. How did you come to this approach to do benefits so differently?
How to do them so differently? I love what I do. I've had the exposure. I have to, give mad props to mentors that I've had over the years that have poured into me and still stand by me. So, it's very difficult. You don't always have a client in every single industry. So over the years in my career, I've kept in touch with all of my mentors, and, I meet with them outside of Poms so that I'm able to gain additional knowledge and be prepared for that. So I don't always have all the answers, but I'm going to be very resourceful. I do have what I call one of my original Angie's lists. So I've got I've got somebody for everything. I might not always be, but I might not have all the experience, but I've got tons of resources. So that's really how I come to that, is that, if I see a need for a client, my goal is always, to not just meet them where they're at, but to provide them various options. And sometimes the client doesn't even know what it is that they need. I am a good listener, and I do love to hear my clients, hear what the struggles might be that they have going on, and then trying to find solutions that I can provide to them.
Excellent, excellent. Very, very, very interesting. Who would have thought that benefits design got this hands-on? This white glove is kind of how I think of it. Very, very, very interesting stuff. And do you work with clients anywhere in the country?
Yes, national. So national accounts is really where I started my career. I worked with one of the largest chains of hospitality groups, hotels throughout the entire United States. So that's how I learned so early on the different markets, the different dynamic that you find from West Coast to East Coast and as well internationally. And so that's really given me, those roots to be able to spread. I work with clients and they often will go from one organization to another and they take me with them. I have one client in particular that made me part of their signing agreement to their new employer. They said, I can't survive without Angie. So it was, such an honor to have, have someone do that. But yes, they take me along and, I have to learn it all. And also, as employers now, especially with COVID more than ever, they have employees located throughout the entire United States, right? So no longer are we just worried about what's going on in one area. I have to keep up with the compliance and regulations of every single state, which is always fun. And that includes beyond the medical and the healthcare, you have to think about disability programs. Certain states provide paid family medical leave and others don't. Well, I'm a big believer that, in order to protect the client, if they're in a state that does provide it, how are we going to make sure that employees look and feel the same way across the United States? So it's, I feel it is my obligation to learn those things and to be able to provide those solutions so that even though they might not be thinking about it, I have to think as though, like I said, I'm on the right-hand side of them.
Excellent. This has been fantastic, Angie. Thank you so much for your time. When this goes live, I will tag both you and the company on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
And yeah, I learned a ton about benefits. So thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely. Have a great one. Thank you for your time.